let's have a wee meditation now for about 10 to 15 minutes to clear our heads before we dive into the lesson. So everyone, please find a comfortable position and get comfortable. And then when you're ready, you can start to close your eyes. And just take a moment to check in with yourself. How is your body feeling? How are you feeling emotionally? As always, we just only aim to take care of the mind. So we gently and softly bring it back to ourselves. And we can practice a body scan to make sure that it can stabilize with us. We will start with the crown of our head. Relax our eyeballs back into their sockets, your cheeks, your jaw, the back of your head and neck. You relax your throat, your shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, up into the fingertips, and then the chest, the upper back, relax. The middle and the lower back, and the abdomen. Relax your buttocks, your quads. Relax your knees, shins, and calves, all the way to the soles of your feet, your toes, and then taking a moment to feel your entire body. You just practice to bring the mind to different parts of our body to make sure that it's with us, to recognize once again that when we tell our mind to be somewhere, that's where the mind will be. So you don't have to do nothing. You can just relax, sit there absolutely comfortable, and just when you tell your mind what it should do for you, as if you would tell your chauffeur where it should take you. You just tell your chauffeur, or you just tell your mind what you want it to know, and then it will do it for you. You don't have to do the heavy lifting. So just bring your mind back to yourself. You can tell it it's okay, no worries, you're safe. Come and stay with me for a while. And then when it does wander off from yourself, from your body, then just gently tell it to come back. Gently and softly. Make sure that your mind is with yourself. And do take a moment to remind it to come back to you. Take a moment to check in with yourself, with your body again, just like we did in the beginning of the mini meditation. How does your breath feel now? How does your heartbeat feel now? How does your entire body feel now in comparison to the beginning? remember to take this time to spend quality time with yourself, with your mind, so that your body, your mind feels relaxed, but also that you can be aware of where your mind is, just as if you would give anyone else, any one of your loved ones, any friend, any colleague, your attention, listening to them, being aware of them, gifting them your time and energy. You're right now gifting that to yourself. And then, whenever you're ready, in your own time, you can slowly and gently start to mentally prepare yourself to listen and to participate in class, to have an open, clean space in your mind to listen and share, to re-listen to things we might have heard, but we might be able to understand even better. And then, in your own time, you can gently open up your eyes. Hello. So first, I would love to ask if there are any questions that are burning on anyone's mind, on anyone's gut at the moment, anything that you would like to ask, or that you would like to share or talk about before I would dive into any topic. Except for where's Zoe? She's here. But the background is, yeah. So we had a very lovely long day today, seeing a lot of beautiful sights of Ireland. But I'm also a little bit tired. So, what I would love to talk to you about today is I'm first going to share one example about we had over the time quite a few people who came to the class with questions about um, how can I actually like make changes and stand up for myself, or like how do I act if like people in front of me do something that isn't correct and they are acting in the wrong way. Am I supposed to um act sorry, if I'm not gonna like stand up against them, am I not gonna be a pushover? We had quite a few questions like these, and I yeah, I wanted to share one story on that, which is actually a story of my mom. So I hope she doesn't mind. um, where she has a neighbor who likes to park on an on the middle between like where the cars go, so you can absolutely not park there. And she's been doing that consecutively. And my mom realized then, later on, at the time she didn't know, but later on she realized that whenever she would see that outside of the window, there would be like that anger inside of her welling up, and the whole narrative that comes with it being like, ah, that lady thinks that she's like, she can do anything, that she's like better in some way, like a lot of not so nice things. And when I told her, and she said like one time she said something to the lady, and I let my mom talk because she obviously wanted to share. Anyone else, obviously, like they just want to share first. And then afterwards, I was like, and do you think you're actually really going to make any real changes with people and in the world by like shouting at someone on the street? Do you think that that is anything good that's going to come from that? And we went to the, it all comes down to like actually what we always learn, and what is like cause and effect, and like what is the result, like really like just looking at the timeline. What is the result? What is the result of, in that example, going to that, up to that person, and then also like angry hurt voice talking to that person. We already know that the result is not going to be a good one. So we look at the timeline and we see also things working systematically. There's like something, a person acting in a way where we don't know why she did it. We don't know why she is doing it. We don't know why she's been doing it often, but those are the only two facts that we have. We don't know anything about her mindset. We don't, like, all of the things that came up in my mind, in my mom's mind, were things that she couldn't possibly know about the person. It could be the same that it could be something completely else. It could be someone who's incredibly overworked being a social worker and just not having like the eyes even to see anywhere where to go, and just doing it because she did it once and it worked, and she just could park her car and she could end her day and be fine. Like something that you can understand. But there's this voice that offers it to you, offers this narrative to you about what happens around you. And you then have the choice to go with it or not. Now, when you go with it, there will always be a result, and the result never lies. The result never lies if it's the bad, the good, not good, not bad. Because it works systematically. These thoughts, this narrative will come up, and it will give you an option. You could say this, you could do this. You follow through with it, it will then lead to another action. That other person may be retaliating, or other things that happen, all systematically ending up with at the point where my mom feels bad, and the other person feels bad too, and or like angry and riled up, and in the end, both people having accumulated negative energy and like possibly ruined like relationships with neighbors. Now, this is one really specific example. I want to try that out because usually when I teach or when we teach, we don't use like specific examples, but we more like talk about the principle of it. So I was wondering if any of you had any situations of yourself or in your family where, oh yeah, sorry, before I go there, it is a really, really clear clear thing that there's something inside of you that's trying to rile you up, almost like someone who's talking to you, just like, look at that person, look what they're doing this on purpose, blah 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 blah. Like there's a whole narrative behind it, all just trying to rile you up inside of you. And I explained it to my mom with the devil angel analogy on the shoulders, because that really worked for her, and as a metaphor. And I was like, you choose. And that is, to end the story, like what she's been practicing ever since, just only practicing like, who is this? Who am I listening to? And then deciding not to listen because she knows what the result will be, because she has already proven that to herself. And then she chose to not do it, and she told me like just after 2 weeks doing that, she was like, I feel like the world is like a nicer place, like a brighter, more brighter place. So yeah, I was wondering if you had any kind of situations that you would like to share in your family as well, with other people as well, and yeah, how do you think the good makes like real changes in the world? How do you think you make real changes that are not happening? Yeah, how do you make? Is there anyone who would like to volunteer, or am I going to call on people? Oh, Tom Tom.
Hello. So yeah, while we were talking, I was totally reminded of my old downstairs neighbor. And in this situation, like I was the one who was getting like super angry, super triggered because she was super, super loud, like just obnoxiously loud. And she would just like, yeah, play music at like all hours and like super early in the morning at like the max volume. And she would entertain, let's say, like a lot. And yeah, just there was like people, and there was like, and sometimes it would kind of descend into like like plates breaking and stuff, and like doors slamming and yelling, and like just it was a bit I want to say like uh, it was a bit unwholesome, yeah. um and yeah, her character, like just meeting her like out in the real world, like she was a bit of a Darrow, like she's not the kind of person that you would like want to spend a lot of time with. And so yeah, I would just get really, really, really angry. And the one time that we did go down and talk to her, she was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, like just like bang on the ground kind of thing, like if I'm being too loud." And so that's what I would do. Like I would just like smash on the ground to the point where like my heels would be sore, like I was trying to like or I would get like my sound speaker, like my little one, and put it like on the ground, like face down. So like to try to put as much of my music, like give her a taste of her own medicine kind of thing. And yeah, of course, it just made things worse, right? Like it just escalated, like no one's gonna respond well to that. But I will say, like, this is, 5 years ago. I've come a long way since then, but I just didn't have the tools to be able to deal with that. I didn't know what else to do besides just get angry and like yell and just scream and punch the ground. And it's really funny because the way that it kind of resolved itself was by accident, which was around the apartment. I would always like say hi and like smile to everyone. And it just so happened that she was like kind of walking around the corner, and there was a bit of a pane of glass that it was kind of hard to see through near the entrance. And so I knew that someone was there, but I couldn't see who it was. And so just instinctively, I smiled and I kind of waved, and then I saw it was her. But by then, it's too late to be like, "Oh no, like I didn't mean that." So she just kind of like waved and smiled back, and then it was fine after that. Like it was like I extended the olive branch or something, and yeah, totally by accident. I kind of smoothed things over, but then she moved out. But yeah, I think I was the angry Nelly or something, for a long time.
Yeah. And like in the teaching, it is then literally like the bad nature coming into your mind and using anger so that you pull up negative energy out of the situation. Like any
Oh yeah.
any kind of excuse it can take, like, so just only so that you, like the human that it is trying to possess, in a way you say possess in Buddhism, you're possessed by anger, is riled up, and they gain their energy so that they can do it again, and they can come closer towards their goal. So like you will still have to deal with these things sometimes. You will still like meet a noisy neighbor, and you'll still like have people that will act like in that isn't completely correct. But how do you make real changes? And you just actually said something to that too. You said like what happened in that situation where you accidentally gave her the benefit of the doubt, as if she was like any other nice person of your neighbors. And from my aunt actually, a similar story where she would come down every time to their neighbors, or up to their neighbors, and tell them every time. And every time she would be like nice. Every time she would be nice. And I talked to her about it and I said it's such an amazing thing to do, because in the end, what matters is that she was always running the good system. And she did not like the worst thing that can happen in these situations is not that the neighbor's loud, but that it changes our normality. It changes the version that we are normally, especially like at home, for example. It changes our normality for the worse. We change as a person, you'd say, like for the worse, just because of like a tiny thing of like noise or something, which is like a big like a tiny thing like in the scale of you change your personality because of it. So she did it and like stayed nice like over time, again and again, even though other people would tell her that like you have to like put your fist onto the table. And the truth is, whatever is going to come from, like whatever good is going to come from that, because if that would work, it just would mean that the other people wouldn't be loud anymore because of fear. So which system are they running when they are with fear? What good is going to come from that? And you see that these people, like what you heard Tom too, like running the bad system, they are harvesting what they're sowing. You know, like the stuff that you heard, like of like things breaking too, the relationship that they have with family and friends and at their work and everything, they're already harvesting what they're sowing. They're already like, they are pulling up that energy. They're creating their own karma at that time. So just as we do in the end of like love and kindness, it really like it first, of course, you will have to run the good system. Otherwise, how can you throw rocks when you're sitting in the glass house? And the second one is that there can't be any long-term sustainable good chances made from anything that is bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was funny as well because I had then, or maybe a few months later, some upstairs neighbors move in, and they were you could tell it was like not intentional, but they were kind of dragging their furniture across the ground. And I think maybe there was tiles, and so it was really loud, you know. And once I started noticing it, I just couldn't ignore it, right? And I started getting like a bit annoyed again because it was quite loud. But I was like, oh, I don't want another situation of a downstairs neighbor. Like I'm going to come at this a very different way. And so instead, I wrote like a really nice letter, and I put like a couple of like cookies, like some homemade cookies that I'd made, in like a little like parcel. And I put it on their doorstep. And I think like a day or two later, like they sent me back a letter, put it on my doorstep, just being, oh, we didn't realize. Like I'm so sorry, like thank you for the cookies, and like it was just yeah. best possible like outcome.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something like it's something like the very interesting that you said that there'll be inside of you, like there'll be like you'll be annoyed. The funny thing is like you can, for example, live in a house where the train goes by really loud, like every day, just that you're really close to the train, the railway. And you will not hear it. Like you will not hear it. You'll be absolutely ignorant. Like people will come to your apartment and they'll be like, "Oh, it's so loud in here." You'll be like, "Huh?" Because you're so used to it. So you'll see that noise, like the thing on the outside, is never your problem. Like the thing on the outside is never your problem. There's only one thing that will, from the inside, always point to everything outside, what is wrong and what is the problem, and then try to build up that feeling. Because you know that there have also been situations where maybe people around you have acted wrong, or like something like that happened, and you just couldn't be bothered. You couldn't be annoyed at all. You were just happy with whatever you were doing. You might have had something like, okay, it was a few years ago, but maybe now it's like, oh, something nice to be mindful of, or like a completely different mindset about it. So it comes back to the, like, what is the origin? What is the true cause? And then you can look at other people and you can see what is the true cause of them behaving in such a way. You get to a point where you can't really where you at least you can come to the point where you just have like compassion for other people, because you're at a point where you realize when you're being tricked, and you're working on it, and you're working on not only curing the symptoms by like distracting yourself, but actually curing the cause and preventing it from happening again, whereas they might not have that opportunity and those tools.
Yeah, no, 100%. And just as a quick last little thing, this exact example with like the let's say noise pollution. I might have mentioned it once before. There was this little parable about like there's like the monks, and like they're all in their monastery and everything's like really cool, and then like a noisy thing like a hostel or something opens up down the road, and they just start pumping music just 24/7. And some of the monks start to get a little bit annoyed, and they go to the master and they're like, we need to do something about this noise, because the music is disturbing our practice. And the master says, no, you are the one disturbing the music, And so I like that, because it's looking at a different way. And for me, it means that, like, well, yeah, the fact that you're annoyed by something tells you that, all right, you still have like an ego there that's willing to get annoyed by anything to make a story about it. And yeah, you still have work to do. It should just pass right through you.
I know that story from Ajahn Brahm. Yeah, it's in German.
Oh, Ajahn Brahm?
Yeah, in German it translates a little bit different. It says like
paraphrasing as well.
It says that like the music is not disturbing you, but there is something that makes you disturbed by it, something like that. So yeah, in the end, there's something that we realize that the cause is inside of us. So yesterday we were talking a lot about just like what I send into the chat too, like on how do you share these to other people, how do you share Buddhism. And Ajahn Jimmy texted in like our staff group too, that in the end we want to bring it back, like what we're sharing in Buddhism is nothing new. It's something that what the Buddha was doing was nothing else but describing what happens around him naturally, meaning everything coming together systematically in a way, in a sequence, including humans creating these outcomes, seeing that running the bad system will lead to these kind of results, running the good system will lead to these kind of results, and that in the end it doesn't go beyond. There's a system in place, there's a goal of that system, a result, an outcome, and there's a cycle of like thoughts, action, speech, energy that you pull up that will run that entire system to its end. So that's why when we learn and we study, we learn and we study for to use it, right? We learn and we study to use it, and to make life easier and more easily understandable. So then we'll have to be careful that with what we're learning and how we're learning it is something that, first of all, matches common sense, and that also helps you. You can learn something, but if it doesn't change you, if it doesn't change your life, if it doesn't add any benefit, then for what? Is there anyone who has any question that just came up? I feel like Karen looks very quizzically. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I like Tom, I have and your mom, I have like a million similar stories with myself from my mom's perspective, between me and my mom, or me and a stranger. But I think my question is, like, at what point do you trust your bad instinct? Like, what's the line, you know? Like, if a situation is like uncomfortable, or like, where do you draw the line of like, this is not safe for me anymore? Is it like up to each person's boundary, or like, because maybe something that a stranger does doesn't bother uh doesn't bother you, but it might bother me. But like, how do we, or is there a distinct, like, mm, I don't know the word, but like, is there like, is it like, I'm sure it's not completely black and white of like, trust your bad instinct, don't trust it, or like, just keep knowing regardless of what's happening, just keep knowing and keep knowing. But then like, yeah, at what point is it too far? Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's like a clear thing, like if there's real danger at hand. Like we're saying common sense here, this doesn't go beyond common sense. So like,
Okay.
if
Oh,
there's
that's good, because that answers it. Yeah.
but if there's real danger, and the thing is, it's not never the bad that will have to come up and tell you that this is real danger. The good book can warn you. It can be like, this is gonna happen, this, and this is gonna unfold if this and this happen. It's never the bad. The bad wants you to walk into its like big time if it is something bad. So being clear, why do we call it even the bad instinct? Not why not because we're against it, not because, but because it's like literally the truth of what it does. It is like the cause. It's using thoughts and feelings that arise inside of your mind naturally, instinctively, by themselves, that will lead you to a result that is supposed to destroy yourself and others, unwholesomeness and unhappiness, and like destruction. So it is literally defined over that. So if you're ending up in a place where where you're feeling bad, you can be sure that the bad had its fingers in the game. With like boundaries, like some people feeling more easy annoyed than others. Just like in meditation, it's a practice, and what annoys you is the feeling inside, the annoyed like that arises. The more pollution you have, the stronger the feeling. Can also be then there's a specific room in your mind that is very polluted, and or a version of, better scratch that, there's a version of yourself that you're very familiar with off the bat, that then very easily can take control over you, because it has, first of all, you're familiar with it, so you're familiar in accepting it when it's coming up in your mind. Just like a friend of yours that happens to be not a good friend, but you've been friends with them for so long, you have like you by what is the word? Just by being used to it, you're listening to that person. That can make it stronger. That can make it. There are certain versions that for us can be very prominent, but the cause is always the same. It's always the same culprit, and the cause and effect, it doesn't lie. Bad results. There have to be something that is playing its fingers in there. And yeah, that's it. And we're a big fan of common sense. Yes, Dad. Shoot.
It's one thing is about bad and instinct and good instinct, and first when you told me about it, I thought of the little devil on my right shoulder and the little angel on my left shoulder. But when you imagine these figures, sometimes the little devil has something in mind which is good for you. So this would be like a good instinct, but it's the devil. So I think you have to differentiate between these figures and the intention. I think the bad instinct is ever leading you to the bad, and it might be the angel that is leading you to the bad. So it's not so easy to differentiate between good instinct and bad instinct. And I would like to share something about the disturbing from before, but I don't know if it's appropriate at this point.
One of the first understandings that people have to make on this journey is to understand when is it the bad, specifically when it's the bad. If they want to come further, they will also have to understand when it's the not good, not bad, because that one will help hold them back and waste their time on their journey to whatever good they want to do in the world. So that one is a specific one. There's also a reason why it doesn't really make sense to go teaching people a lot and go into advanced stuff if they're not able to yet identify when they're being tricked within their own mind. Now, the bad is defined that it will come and it will talk to you with pressure, with emotions, telling you, for example, telling you that this is what you have to do and you will have to do this action only so that this feeling stops, that this feeling of suffering and pressure goes away. The bad will always tell you, if you only do what I say, I will take this feeling away and you'll never have to feel it again. It comes, so it is emotion driven specifically. Whereas the good, when it comes, it will come with logic. It can, of course, warn you in situations that aren't nice. It can warn you to get out of a place because it will come with logic. It will tell you exactly, like, this is going to happen if you interact with this person. This is going to happen, this and this. It will tell you with logic, not with emotion. And you will see that when you follow it, then you are then left with places. You're then left at a place where you are better, where you feel uplifted and everything. And I think there's a major misunderstanding that when I speak of the devil, I mean the bad instinct through and through, meaning the voice that will lead you to bad stuff. And with the angel, I mean the voice that will lead you to good stuff. And meaning that they never cross. They are so opposite, actually, in nature, that will never ever cross. And the bad will always only pretend that I have the good for you in mind. I only have the good in for you in mind. I want to protect you, and you'll have to take these actions only so that you won't have to suffer anymore. But it is lying. Because if you actually take these actions, you might actually really pull back from people. You might end up in a place where you're feeling really bad, where you're feeling really lonely, where you're feeling really helpless. And you realize that even though it pretended that it wanted the best for you, the result never lies. Does that make sense, Kat? Lara or
Yes.
Okay.
What helps me when I try to differentiate the two of them is I will like hear what those voices tell me, and I look at it. If I do this now, does this help me like in the moment? And the bad can perceive me into thinking this is good because it feels good in a moment, but what does it do long term? So sometimes, like especially with self-destructive behavior, it will help you in the moment and you will feel better. That was when I struggled with self-harm. It's been years since then, but it was always behavior that was like short-term helping me, but in the long run, it was just very not helpful. And now I try to do something that in the moment doesn't really help me that much. And it's usually the thing that we hate to do, right? It's like getting up early in the morning. It's going for that run. It's, I don't know, eating the salad or you name it, whatever your goals are. And usually in the moment it will feel bad, but in the long run, like it will help you. So like showing up every day for meditation, some days feels hard and like, no, this can't be good if it's making you like feel all this pollution right now, but in the long run it will help you. So sometimes it helps me to see that, to look at it this way. I don't know how that's for you, but yeah, that helps me sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. There's Jimmy texted very good. Oh, sorry, it went away again. Very good, Lara. The keyword and key point, the goal and the outcome. Are the goal and the outcome. Yeah. What is the goal and what is the outcome of it? Absolutely. 100%. It's like we had one example. Sorry, Tom, I see you. You'll be right. We had an example of one girl recently who went to a therapy where she was supposed to bring up all her trauma, like bring it up, like kind of like relive it, like in therapy, and then do an exercise where she was supposed to follow the finger of the therapist really quick, like focus on the finger. And the truth is that when you brought it all up and then you focus on the finger, you feel better. But then you realize, imagine like you're in front of the door to hell. You then open the door, you go into hell, you bring up all that trauma, then you go back out of hell, you feel like relieved. You feel good. You're like, you're no longer in hell. But not because you're in a different place, not because anything has been solved, and not actually because you're in a better place than before. Just like when you're in a situation that is really suffering, just like when you are in in that like you bring up all that trauma, you feel like really suffer. The moment you don't suffer anymore, you feel like, oh, I'm loads better. But just because it's such a stark contrast between the two. And what actually happens when you do that is like, what kind of system are you running when you, without changing any view on it, without like slowly and slowly like working through stuff, you just bring it up, you bring up negative thoughts and feelings, you bring up that mindset, and you run that system, you bring up that energy. And that person who did that actually ended up being really sick, like physically, being really, really sick after studying that therapy, and wondering like how her body could be so down, since like she's never really been sick before and never really had problems with like pulling up negative energy before, and she was wondering where that came from. So yeah, that was one more thing that I wanted to share about. Tom?
Yeah, just like the maybe even to go back to what Karen was saying about like where's the line, and to kind of pull it together for like the goal outcome kind of stuff. I feel as though like the line is it's almost like self-harm, you know? It's like, oh, it makes my mind worse, right? But I think the problem is you don't see it in the short term, right? Like long term, like it's not good for you. Like I said, when it was faced with the upstairs neighbor, I was like, all right, I'm not going down that road again. Not because of them, but because I know how it makes me feel, right? And so like all that anger just breeds more anger, and I don't want to feel angry, you know, like I don't want to feel frustrated and angry and pissed off. And so, you know, like as Lara was saying, like, you know, like short term it does offer you something, right? Because I can just get angry and maybe I get like a quick result, but it but long term it makes my mind worse, right? And of course, like mindfulness is like the whole job of seeing the, you know, cause and effect, right? But I think yeah, like the for me, like the line is like it's self-harm. Like I don't want to get angry because anger is an unpleasant mind state. And so these days, instead of getting like angry back or frustrated, I'll shift to compassion. um, I can just go to compassion as a refuge for my own. Oh, thanks, Jimmy. For my own anger, right? It's easier for me that way. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you'll see something really interesting, like throughout the world, you see that the people who like practice, as Tom called it, self-harm, like in the sense of listening to the anger, knowingly or unknowingly, they will find other people to practice that with them. Like you'll see that a whole system that stretches like over the, like almost over the surface of the earth, like the circle of like you shouting at someone, they then shout at someone else, even though you don't know that person, and then at some point ending up with you again. There's like a system in place over the entire earth just by who is controlling that person's mind. So you have all the people who are controlled by their bad instinct, mostly for their normality, like that, almost like work like a network around the world. Similar to the not good, not bad, similar to the good too. So when you're running the system, you're, like I said yesterday, like a magnet towards that system around you, meaning like the people who have a similar mind state than you, that run the good system, that run the bad system, that run the not good, not bad system. And if you actually really want to make changes in the world, even if you face like in day-to-day life, of course, you come in contact with people who are running a different system. If you actually really want to make changes, you'll only make changes by running the good system yourself. So absolutely, like Tom, like you cannot help anyone from a place where you're with the bad. Secondly, it is not up to you to decide that you will help this person now, because they will have to be with their good in the first place to even be able to listen to you. They will have to be in the headspace to even receive what you're telling them. So we come back in the end again, as always, to the principle of like, why do we practice mindfulness? Why do we make sure that we try to pull up positive energy every moment of our life? Because everything else will follow. Because the people that are running that similar system will follow that, like, meeting the changes in your life will follow. You'll have all these people who share like how meditation has changed their life, not by them actively going out and like changing anything about their work, this and that, but just by meditating, or just by being mindful, and by just accumulating that positive energy. Because if you wouldn't have it, if your good wouldn't be strong enough to come up and to remind you, Tom, to tell you and be like, hey, we're not going to go down that road again, you might be like, oh, here we go again. Because listening to the bad, who's just stronger at the time, who has the right at that time to come into your mind. So that's why we need to pull up that positive energy, and we need to accumulate wisdom. Because the more wisdom we have in our memory, the more wisdom the good can use. The more positive energy we accumulate, the more the positive system can run for us. And the more we do both of these things, the more purity we accumulate, which naturally will make us feel more at peace, more happy, more this, and then help us to have compassion with other people, because it's really hard to have compassion with other people, like you said the other day too, Tom, when you're not good. That's why we sometimes we will run out of good energy, so we'll have to fall back into wisdom. What you've learned will not leave you, and you will have to come back, and sometimes it is hard to then practice it. Sometimes it is hard to just to go against the bad when it has more energy. That's why we need to make sure our wisdom is bulletproof. We understand exactly who is the bad, who is the not gonna bad, and who is the good. These three things, if you can only understand that, you can accelerate and like your practice in your life in a really, really short time, just by understanding that every time when something comes up, is it the bad, is it the good, is it the not bad? Imagine you would just from like day to day only follow the good voice, only that, because you understand exactly who the other two are. You understand exactly when they come up, you know exactly what the game they're playing. Then imagine what kind of life you would be living, and what kind of energy would you put out into the world. Yes, Karen, do you feel comfortable to lead the meditation?
I think so. You can comment in.
Okay. Yes, Karen.
I was just gonna say, Tom, like your example made Carmen's advice make more sense. Like how you said, when the situation comes again, you know better, and that made Carmen's advice like the good will warn you to in that situation. So yeah, that example helps that be more clear. So it makes sense now. It's like the good will warn you because you've been in that situation before, and you'll know better for next time what to do. And Carmen, your dad said something about he said like, how do or at least this is what I understood, like, how do I know how to differentiate between my goods telling me to do something good and my bad tricking me using a good feeling or a good outcome, but it's yeah, like it's just using a trick to convince him that that thing is good. I think you guys can confirm. I think from the past, or like what has helped me that you guys told me is like be really clear on what your good is, like what your good goal is for yourself, and like be truthful in that. And so that way you don't fall victim to the tricks of the bad, even though they want to make you, you know, they try to trick you into thinking that X, Y, and Z will be good for you. but I think so you don't fall into those tricks and like do short-term satisfactions like you pretty much all of you guys just talked about. I think if you get more clear on your ultimate goal of your good instinct, then you can better differentiate between, like, you can ask yourself, is this thing actually gonna be good, or is it just temporary? So yeah, I think when he asked that question, that's what I remembered.
Mhm. Well, that's really good. So good. I'm really happy that what everyone is sharing is like adding up to each other so nicely, and that it's all helping you too. Why does that work so well? What you just described, when you come back to like your ultimate goal, is because the higher the goal, the better the system. Like imagine you have a goal that is up here. Oh yeah, I can't see my hand. You have a goal that is up here, and you will then have to take all of these steps, all of these processes to reach here. If your goal is here and it's still a good goal, you'll get a system and a cycle that is good enough to just reach there. But you set your goal high, you set your goal on the top of this staircase, then you will train to get to the top of the staircase. You will then, just as if you train to, I like that example, you get, when you set a high goal, you get that system. So when you set the goal to climb Mount Everest, the top, you will then train for the top of Mount Everest. Even when you then hike it and you happen to just go to base camp or like another base between like the top, it will be easy because you trained for the top, because that is the system that you gained by setting a high goal. That's why it works to come back to your goal and to be truthful to it. Because if you're having a high goal, if you're having a correct goal, you get the better system. These thoughts, the quality of them already, just like trauma can have like a really, really strong quality in the negative sense, like something that can very, very easily pull up a lot of bad energy at once. A high goal, a system that is like that good, like for the top of Mount Everest, has a high quality too. That's why we always tell people to set a high goal, to like set your goal on utmost wisdom, utmost purity or capability, and utmost happiness, because there's nothing that goes beyond that. There's nothing that goes beyond that. So you get the best system. You get Mount Everest. Yes, Lara.
I have a question to that because it makes sense, but I feel like in reality that just doesn't work for me at all. Because if I have a goal that's like, I don't know, happiness or getting that job or whatever, then like it's too high, then I'm like reaching for the stars and then I give up so fast because I'm like, I can never ever reach that. It's so unrealistic. So I need like baby steps. I mean, I can probably still reach for the stars and like want that, but I don't know, like for me, I need to take every single step and be like, yes, I reached one of the goals. Now I'm hyped again. And then I can go to the next. Like, I don't know. I need so many steps. Otherwise I don't know. I just always change my mind or something, if you know what I mean.
100%. You can't teleport yourself to the top of Mount Everest. That's not how it works. How you'll get there is you'll put one foot in front of the other. The thing is that when you have a high goal like the top of Mount Everest, when you put like 3 foot in front of it, you can be really proud of yourself. But you're not like, okay, and now where am I gonna go? I did 3 steps. You know exactly where you're gonna go. You know exactly that you're on the way to Mount Everest. You're still proud of the 3 steps you take, knowing that those are the steps that you will have to take to get anywhere, anyway. So by a high goal, something like utmost wisdom, for example, utmost purity, it is set to, if you have that in mind, you don't want to waste your time on other stuff anymore. Like either bad or like that's literally like pulling you back, or not good, not bad, that's taking you away. Imagine like you have your eyes set on Mount Everest and you take one step at a time, exactly as you said, like always being happy about every step that you take. But then if someone would invite you, oh yeah, don't you want to like come to a bar or something? Like it's done like walking Mount Everest now. Or even worse, like someone who is like, oh, don't you want to like come back down to like down the mountain again? Like that's not really like making us feel any better, and actually like trying to degrade us in a sense. I don't think I made a good example here. More like degrading us in a literal way, where we do something bad that degrades us in our journey. But you see what I'm trying to say is that you have your eyes set on that, and then you make sure that every day you learn a little bit, you upgrade your wisdom a little bit. Every day you make sure you practice, you have your eyes set on pulling up that good energy, pulling up that purity, because you will not be deteriorated from your goal. You know your goal. You have your eyes set on Mount Everest. And that is extremely, extremely important, because then you will not feel lost in life. You will always know where you're going. And when you happen to go astray, then you know that you're astray. Then you know that you have to come back to it. And it's like, as you said, it's always one step at a time. Like my dad likes to say, how do you eat a whale? One fork at a time. So yes, absolutely, you're correct on that. Did that make sense?